Does your kitchen ever get like this? A total mess. You can see I've got messes everywhere around me, behind me, in front of me, even over on my kitchen table. We're all really bad to just set stuff down. Our kitchen becomes our catch-all. The kitchen table, the island, counters sometimes. So I need to clean up in here before I cook supper. Thankfully, I've had a really busy day, early morning. This is not at the end of the day yet, but I've had a really busy day already. But thankfully, I thought ahead, and I do have some in my crock pot over there. I've got some soup beans. So I've got those going. Those are going to be delicious for supper. Well, before I even tackle the kitchen, I've got one chore I want to do outside, though. I want to go out and get some mustard greens. They will be so good to go with our soup beans tonight for supper. So before I tackle the kitchen, I'm going to head out to the garden and harvest some of our wonderful mustard greens. Our mustard greens are growing out the top of the raised bed, so they need to be eat. And I'm excited about this. Will be our first mess of them. They really struggled when we first planted them because it was so dry. But we got some rain, and really the rain from the hurricane, we didn't have any damage or anything here, but we did get a lot of rain, and that really made them grow. And I do my greens the same way I do my lettuces and things like that. I'll cut them down here near the bottom of the stem, and then hopefully more will grow out through the winter. I think this is enough to feed us all. I'm just going to wash them as I go through them. We have a little bit of bug damage, so I may remove some of that. If you want to, you can remove the stem. Some people remove it, and some people just cook them a long time, and that gets tender too. So that's just personal preference. I do a little bit of both, I guess. That one's got a really big stem, you can see, so I probably remove part of that. And maybe leave this part up here, even though there's that damage there. I'm going to wash it good. Any of them that I think are too tough, that one actually may be. What I will do with them is feed them to my chickens, and they'll love them. So now I just got to get them washed, though. I got all the mustard greens washed. I washed my scissors good, and I'm going to snip, try to make some of the pieces smaller. And while I'm doing that, though, I just put some olive oil in there. You don't really have to put any, but I'll just put a little bit. But I'm going to put some pieces of fatback in the oil there and let them render just slightly. And then I will put the greens in and then add some water, really I don't need any salt because this is really salty, but some pepper, and then set them to cooking. You could also, I like to use my scissors for things like this, but you could use your knife. You could tear them. I tore a lot of them while I was actually washing them. But you could do it either way you want to. Or maybe you want to leave them whole. I just like to try to get them in a little bit smaller pieces just to make the eating easier. They will cook down a lot though. Okay, I'm going to start adding my greens, and it looks like a whole lot of greens, but they will cook down a lot. I'm going to add some water as I spill it everywhere as usual. Probably need to add a little bit more. Ooh, sloshing out. Okay, I'm gonna get some pepper to add to them. And then I'm gonna put a lid on them and just let them cook. Mustard greens, if you've never had them, they have a bite to them, like a peppery bite. They're our favorite greens. We do like kale and we like turnip greens, but I think mustards are our favorites, truthfully. I may need to add salt too, because this is a lot of greens. I should have probably put a little bit more fat back than I did. So I'll just have to taste them as I go along. Let them cook a little bit and then give a taste and see if I don't have enough smoky flavor, I'll add a little bit more. And I'll let them cook a good few hours. Sometimes I put them on early in the morning and really early and just let them kind of very lowly simmer. I'm going to cook them a little bit faster than that now, but probably still I'll cook them at least about 2 hours. Just keeping an eye on them too though, because you don't want the water to escape on you, to cook out and then them scorch. And then I'm going to see if I can clean up the kitchen. It's a little bit later in the day. I've got my greens, they've been cooking. I pushed them to the back of the stove there on the back eye. I tasted them after they'd been cooking a while, decided to add more meat to them, more fat back, and I added some salt. I thought they needed salt. And I did add one other thing. I got a spoonful of bacon grease and I put that in there. So I think they're just about done, and now it's getting about supper time, so I need to finish the rest of the supper. Already got my beans, my star over there. That's the star of the meal, the soup beans. I love soup beans. And I'm gonna fry up the rest of the fat backs. Strange, I'm gonna have 2 different kinds of meat, but I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna fry up that because there's not much of it left, and if there's any of it left over tonight, Matt will eat it in the morning with breakfast. He'll eat it with something. But I'm also gonna make some Kraut and Weenies. I went out and got one of my jars of Kraut that we made this year. And we've got some hot dogs that we've been eating on, some weenies that we've been eating on. So I'm gonna get that started, which is really easy. Just brown the hot dogs, really, the weenies we would say, and then pour the Kraut over top of them. So that will be super simple. Super simple, of course, to just fry up the fat back. I need to cut the rest of it. And then the only other thing I need to do is to make my cornbread. A lot of people ask me about fat back now. And then let me just tell you my experience growing up with Granny and Pap. We called it fat back, we called it streaked meat. It's really the 2 that we called it. Now what it is salt pork. And some people have told me, since I've been doing videos, is that true fat back is just pure fat. There's no lean in it. Let me hold up a piece here. You can see there's a little bit of lean on this. And then I've had a lot of people ask me, was it not just like bacon? Well, it's not, because it's salt cured, so it's so salty. It's real salty. And a lot of people, when they're cooking it, they will, even Miss Cindy would do this. She would just put it all in a glass of water, like put it, get some water and let it soak in there for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes or something, and let it take out some of the salt. I don't ever do that. Granny and Pap never done that. They just cooked it. So I don't do that, but you sure could if if the salt was too much for you, you could certainly do that. And you can buy, people ask me where you can buy it. Now if you had a farmer, if you could buy it directly from somebody that cures it, that would be the best place to buy it. But my local grocery stores, all of them sell it here where I live. Lots of people eat it though, so that might be why. But I would certainly just look at your grocery store. And you can often find it that's already pre-sliced, so it's already sliced. This was not. So see, you can see that's like the big thick back of it that we wouldn't eat. Now you could use that to flavor stuff with. I might save it for that. But you can buy it already sliced up, or you can buy it like this where it just comes in a big hunk and then you've got to individually slice it. That's kind of nice because you can slice it if you want it thicker, if you want it thinner, something like that. So I'm gonna think I'm going to get my cornbread pan first because this won't take very long. Cornbread will take me about 20 minutes to make it, so I think I'll do that first. I've got my cornbread pan heating in the oven, and I guess I'll go ahead and cut up my weenies, and I'll put the fat back in a pan to get it started. And then I'm going to open my jar of Kraut and taste it. We've ate a few of them already. Let's see, I forgot. I think these are all hooked together. Forgot they were this kind of uncured weenies there. So I'll have to chop those up. But I wanted to taste this. We've ate a few jars, 2 jars I guess already. Both were good, but one was extra good. So I'm just curious if this one, if it would be. I can hear it bubbling, hear that fermentation bubbling. This is just like the first jar. The first jar was excellent. The second jar was, it was okay. But this is like that first one. Really good. Kind of bubbles on your tongue. So I'm going to cut these up. A lot of you have sent in questions to ask Granny. And I've really learned a lot. I thought, well, I'll know all the answers, but I've really learned a lot. Now, Granny is crazy about kraut. Always has been my whole life. She makes it every year, you know, as long as I can remember. Her and Granny, her and Pap, often on the kitchen table, you know, when we'd sit down for supper, there would be kraut and weenies, or just kraut. But one of your questions was about kraut, or maybe it was about something else, I can't remember. But anyway, she said that she learned when she was young, her mother, Gazzy, my grandmother, she would make kraut and weenies, and she said, and I didn't like kraut, but I would eat the weenies. And then as time went on, I kind of got a taste for the kraut and then realized I liked it. That's exactly what happened to me. When me and Paul were really young, I can't remember if Steve liked kraut or not. I'll have to ask him. But when we were really young, Granny would have that kraut and weenies, and me and Paul would just pick out the hot dogs, pick out the weenies and eat them, but we wouldn't eat the kraut. But I guess just like Granny, over time, I've decided that I liked it too. So it's funny how when you get older, your tastes change, and things you didn't like before, you find out you really, really like. And I'm like Granny now. I just love it. I could just take that jar with a fork or a spoon or whatever and just go sit down somewhere and probably eat it all. Probably, I might founder myself, but I would really enjoy it until then. So funny how your tastes change like that. And I am really grateful to everyone that sent in the questions, because like I said, I've learned things that I did not know. Another one that I didn't know about food was someone asked what her favorite vegetable was. Well, I just knew, of course, it would be green beans. And she said, no, it was cucumbers. I said, what? She said, yeah. She said, I love green beans. I'm crazy about them. But she said, my very favorite is a little cucumber straight from the garden. So that surprised me too. Okay, I think I'll go ahead and put these in my pan. I've got my biggest frying pan over there, spread them out, and then I'll mix up my cornbread. I've got some olive oil in the pan. You could use whatever kind of oil you wanted to use. I should put a little bit more, actually. How much more I've got in my bottle here. Goes my cornbread pan. I better hurry on mixing it up. I like to put my pan in the oven to get it hot before I put the mix in it. I'll just let these get brown on each side, and then I will pour in the kraut on top of it. Makes me think about someday when the grandsons are bigger, if they'll just like the weenies like we did. One time years ago, I was just a little girl myself, probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old or something like that. And we had to keep a little boy, 2 little boys that was from Granny's family while their father was real sick. And the biggest one, he would only, I look back in time, these little boys had never even hardly seen us before, and then they ended up living with us for a little bit. But the oldest one, he would only eat hot dogs and ketchup, and that's all he wanted for every meal, hot dogs and ketchup. So I've got my weenies all browned. I'm going to add in my kraut, which is going to cause a whole lot of hissing and popping. I've drained it, but it's still wet, of course. Okay, that's done. As soon as it just warms through, I'm just going to turn it way down on low. Got my cornbread in. Looks like I need to turn my side meat, my fat back over there. And it won't be long and we'll be ready to eat.
Just so you know, I will be injuring myself with this.
I figured. Looks pretty good, don't it?
Oh, yes.
The plate's right here behind you.
This is an exemplary meal. And I can't get it dug out.
I should have chopped them up a little bit thinner or smaller.
It's alright. I'll gnaw them up with my teeth.
Hot tomato pickles.
That's what these is made for, is this right here. As far as I'm concerned. Let me get one of those too.
I don't know what you're gonna drink, but
Milk. And lots of it.
Matt's gonna drink him some milk, he says. I've got the smoke coming up through here. I can't hardly see the camera. Like Matt, I'm gonna get my cornbread and put some of those wonderful beans on it. So soup beans are just pinto beans for us is what we most often eat. I've heard people say that their family called northern beans, great northern beans, they call those soup beans, so maybe it just depends, but for us it's just pintos. Tongs might have worked better for this, but greens is another one of those things. When I was young, I wouldn't dare taste them. I mean, I just, no way. And now I like them. It's another one of those things. Taste changes. Miss Cindy would tell that Matt, when he was just a little baby, that he would eat greens. As many as you would give him, he would eat them. Well, I don't know if I want a piece of side meat or not, but I guess I'll take it. And I didn't get a fork for the tomatoes, but I guess I'll take that too. And unlike Matt, I don't want the hot tomatoes, but I want some of our chow chow. I'm going to get some of it to go with my soup beans. Oh, it smells so good. I have a recipe, or I have a video that shares the recipe for the chow chow. As I look at this is a really common meal that we would eat, all of these things, but it also is a really traditional Appalachian meal. I didn't set out with that in mind, thinking about doing a video like that. I was just going to share what we were having for supper, but this is definitely a traditional Appalachian meal. And you know, like I was saying, when I grew up eating at Pap and Granny's table, Corey and Katie grew up eating it at my table, and I guess my grandsons will, and maybe they'll eventually. Corey and Katie don't really cook like I do, but maybe eventually they will. Corey probably would. I don't know. Katie's has a pickier taste, but let's see how the beans are. Get some of them. Cooked to perfection. Got to get a bite though with the chow chow in it. Chow chow goes so well with it. I've heard a lot of people say different unique things they eat with soup beans: pickles, chow chow, bread and butter pickles, you know, the hot tomato pickles, cayenne peppers, all those kind of things. But some people like to eat soup beans with cake, and then also they like to put mayonnaise in their soup beans. I used to know a friend of Matt's that did that. I guess I gotta taste the greens now. Cooked to perfection. They're real tender. Really good. Well, I'm going to go enjoy my meal. Let all the rest of the yahoos come in here and get what they want. I'm always grateful when you stop by to help me celebrate Appalachia. And I hope you enjoyed seeing this really traditional Appalachian supper.